all torpedoes. Those are our physical defenses, one explained. But our true advantage lies elsewhere. One led them to a special chamber at the center of the ship. Inside, 30 humans sat in circular formation, wearing simple headsets. Among them was Captain Mai. This is how humanity changed during our isolation, Juan said quietly. We learned to link our minds while maintaining our individuality. The convergence is a collective that erases individual consciousness. We became a collective that enhances it. I don't understand, Ha admitted. The convergence absorbs and controls through domination, Tay explained, having learned of this during the preparations. It overwhelms and erases. The human collective works through harmony. Each mind remains distinct while sharing strength. An alarm sounded throughout the ship. The convergence had accelerated and would reach them in 10 minutes. On the main view screen, they could now see it clearly, a vast, shifting darkness that seemed to swallow light itself. At its edges, shapes formed and dissolved, some resembling ships or creatures as if it was trying different forms. It's already analyzing us, Juan observed. Preparing countermeasures. The chamber with the human collective began to glow with soft blue light. As me and the others deepened their connection, the energy field they generated spread throughout the ship, then to nearby vessels. All ships maintain formation, Ha ordered. Fire only when the enemy reaches the designated perimeter. The convergence surged forward faster than predicted. It split into hundreds of tendrils that probed the fleet's formation, seeking weaknesses. When they encountered the shields generated by the human technology, they recoiled briefly, then attacked with greater force. Several Council ships near the perimeter reported system failures despite their modifications. The convergence was adapting more quickly than expected. It's learning too fast, Ha said with alarm. Our defenses won't hold. Now, Juan said into his communicator. In the chamber, me and the mental collective intensified their focus. The blue energy field pulsed outward in waves, connecting not just the human ships but every vessel in the fleet. As it touched each ship, their systems stabilized and strengthened. What's happening? Pak asked Rin as their battleships failing, shields suddenly regenerated. The human collective is sharing consciousness with our technology, Rin explained, making it responsive in ways the convergence can't predict or counter. On the command ship, Tay watched in amazement as the battle shifted. The fleet's torpedoes now pierced the convergence's defenses, creating expanding holes in its structure. When it tried to regenerate, the energy field from the human collective prevented it. It's working, Ha said in disbelief. We're containing it. For 6 hours, the battle raged. The convergence tried countless strategies, but each time the human collective anticipated and countered them. Finally, the dark entity began to contract, pulling back from the fleet's attacks. It's retreating, Ha announced. Several officers cheered, but Juan's expression remained serious. No, he said. It's concentrating its energy for one final assault. The convergence compressed into a dense sphere, then exploded outward with tremendous force. The shockwave hit the fleet, disabling dozens of ships instantly. Even the command ship systems flickered. In the collective chamber, Me and the others strained to maintain their connection. Blood trickled from Me's nose as she pushed herself to the limit. This is our moment, she said to the collective, not just to resist but to transform. The blue energy field changed, becoming more complex and vibrant. It spread through the entire fleet and beyond, enveloping the convergence itself. Where they connected, something unexpected happened. The darkness began to dissolve, not into nothingness but into ordered patterns of light. What are they doing? Tay asked in wonder. They're not destroying it, one explained. They're reorganizing it, changing its fundamental nature from consumption to creation. The process continued for hours. Gradually, the convergence transformed from a destructive force into a stable, luminous cloud. The human collective guided this transformation, teaching the entity a new way of existing. When it was finally complete, Me and the others collapsed in exhaustion. Medical teams rushed to care for them while the fleet watched the transformed entity drift harmlessly through space. In the following weeks, humanity revealed the full extent of their advancement. They weren't just technologically superior, they had evolved a new relationship with consciousness itself. They could share knowledge and experience directly, while preserving the unique perspectives that made them individuals. As humanity formally rejoined the Galactic Council, they brought, not conquest but a new understanding of what civilization could become. The transformed convergence remained as a reminder of both the dangers of uncontrolled consumption and the power of conscious cooperation. We withdrew not to abandon the galaxy, Mi explained at the official ceremony, but to find a path that could save it. Now we return, not as the humans who left, but as something new, a bridge between what was and what might be. A new age had begun. The stars themselves seemed brighter. The end. Tay moved to stand beside me. I have worked closely with the human team for 2 weeks now. They have been transparent and helpful. I believe their intentions are genuine. Representative Jun, a member of an ancient species known for their caution, spoke next. Even if we accept their help, can these modifications truly protect us? The convergence has destroyed entire galaxies according to their reports. Director Q activated a holographic display showing the planned defense network. Our strategy doesn't rely on a single approach. We've developed multiple layers of protection. The first layer will shield key systems from the convergence's disruptive effect. The second will actively repel its attempts to absorb matter and energy. And what of our ships? Asked a military commander named Zhou. Will they be able to fight this thing? Yes, Han replied. But conventional weapons will have minimal effect. We've designed special torpedoes that can destabilize the convergence's structure temporarily. Our ships will need to be equipped with them. The debate continued for hours. Some representatives remained firmly opposed to working with the humans, while others saw no alternative. Tay watched as Mi patiently answered every question, never showing frustration despite the repeated challenges to her honesty. Finally, Councillor Gill called for a vote. By a narrow margin, the council agreed to implement the human modifications and begin preparing their defenses. As the meeting dispersed, an urgent alarm blared throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red, and a voice over the communication system ordered all personnel to battle stations. What's happening? Tay asked a passing security officer. Unknown vessels detected at the edge of the system, the officer replied. They're not responding to hails. Mi and Han exchanged a look of concern. It's too early, Han said quietly. Our projections gave us more time. Unless it's not the main body, Mi suggested. Perhaps just another scout group larger than the one we encountered. They rushed to the command center where High Councillor Gill and the military leaders were already gathered around a tactical display. The screen showed 5 dark objects moving toward the station at high speed. They're unlike any ships we've encountered, Commander Zhou reported. Our scans can't penetrate their hulls. Because they're not ships, Mi said grimly. They're fragments of the convergence itself, formed into something resembling vessels. It's analyzing our defenses. We've dispatched 3 cruisers to intercept, Gill informed them. They'll be in range in 5 minutes. Han stepped forward urgently. Call them back. Their systems aren't protected. The convergence will absorb them. Gill hesitated, then gave the order to retreat. But it was too late. The tactical display showed the cruisers engaging the dark objects. At first, they seemed to be having an effect, their weapons creating temporary disruptions in the convergence. Fragments. Then, one by one, the cruisers' systems began to fail. Their engines died, leaving them drifting helplessly as the dark objects surrounded them. The command center watched in horror as the cruisers were literally pulled apart, their materials absorbed into the growing convergence fragments. This is just the beginning, Mi said quietly. A test of our defenses, which clearly failed, Byun said bitterly. Because your ships weren't modified yet, Han replied. Let us help before more lives are lost. The room fell silent as the reality of their situation sank in. The threat was no longer theoretical, it was here now, and it had just destroyed 3 of their most powerful ships with ease. High Counselor Gill turned to Mai. How quickly can you implement the modifications to our remaining fleet? With enough help, a week for the essential systems, she replied. But we'll need full cooperation. Gill nodded gravely. You have it. Representative Bayun, your engineers are among the best in the galaxy. I'm placing you in charge of working with the humans on the fleet modifications. Bayun looked like he wanted to protest, but simply nodded. The attack had changed everything. Old suspicions would have to be set aside if they were to survive. What about the station? Tay asked. We're vulnerable here. We brought protection, Mi assured him. She touched a communication device on her wrist. Captain Hack, we need the shield generators now. Within minutes, ships from the human fleet arrived, positioning themselves around the station. They activated powerful field generators that created a shimmering barrier between the station and the approaching convergence fragments. The fragments probed the barrier, but couldn't penetrate it. After several attempts, they withdrew to the edge of the system, watching and waiting. An uneasy first victory, Admiral Han observed. But we have much work to do before the main body arrives. The alliance had formed, born not of trust, but of necessity. The real battle was just beginning. After centuries of silence, humanity returns more powerful than ever. 3 months had passed since the first convergence attack. The combined fleet of the Galactic Council and humanity hovered at the edge of the Nexus system waiting. Over 5,000 ships formed a defensive wall against the darkness that now filled the long-range sensors. The main body of the convergence, finally arriving. On the bridge of the flagship Guardian, Admiral Wan of the human forces stood beside Commander Ha of the Council forces. Their initial distrust had slowly transformed into mutual respect as they worked together to prepare for this moment. The fleet is in position, Ha reported. All ships report their modified systems are functioning at optimal levels. One nodded. The convergence will reach our position in 30 minutes. Remember, this entity learns and adapts. It will study our defenses and look for weaknesses. Throughout the fleet, final preparations were underway. Engineer Rin moved quickly through the engine room of a council battleship, checking the special modifications her team had installed. The ship's chief engineer, an alien named Pak, watched with a mixture of awe and concern. These energy matrices don't follow any principles I understand, Pa admitted. How can you be sure they'll hold? Rin smiled. Because they don't operate on the physical level the convergence can affect. We discovered that reality has multiple layers. The convergence can manipulate matter and energy, but not the underlying patterns that connect them. That's what you mean by consciousness technology? Pak asked. Exactly, Rin confirmed. Our greatest discovery wasn't technological but psychological. We found that conscious minds can affect reality directly when properly aligned. Back on the command ship, Administrator Tay joined Wan and Ha. In the months of preparation, he had become the essential link between the humans and the council races. All civilian worlds in the potential path have been evacuated, Tay reported. If we fail here, they have time to implement secondary defenses. We won't fail, Wan said confidently. Not if the neural network performs as expected. Ha looked confused. Neural network? I thought we were using shield technology and the speci. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. That's why the outpost systems failed when you arrived, Tay realized. You used technology designed to resist this convergence. Mi nodded. Yes, our defenses disrupt conventional systems, temporarily, but we can adjust them. She touched a control on her wrist and suddenly all the aliens' devices began working again. As a show of good faith, she added. Another human stood up, a woman with short white hair. I am Director Q, head of our science division. We've brought designs for modifications to your systems that will make them more resistant to the convergence's influence. She placed a small crystal cube on the table. All the necessary information is contained here. Moon didn't reach for it. How do we know this threat is real? How do we know this isn't some human trick to regain power in the council? A fair question, Admiral Han acknowledged, which is why we're willing to demonstrate. He nodded to Captain Me, who touched another control. The wall of the room seemed to disappear, revealing what looked like a normal section of space. "Watch," she said simply. A small probe launched from the ship, flying about a kilometer away. Then seemingly from nowhere, a patch of darkness appeared. It wasn't like a ship or a cloud, more like a hole in reality itself. The probe began to distort, its metal surface bubbling as if being eaten away. "A small scout fragment," Han explained as the delegates watched in horror. "The main body is still months away." The darkness consumed the probe completely, then dissipated. "That is what we face," Me said quietly. "And that is why humanity has returned." The room was silent for a long moment before Tay spoke. "We must take this information to the full council immediately." Me nodded. "We understand this is difficult to accept. We're prepared to provide more evidence and to meet with your leaders." She looked around the table. "Humanity didn't abandon the galaxy. We've been preparing to save it." After centuries of silence, humanity returns more powerful than ever. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from over 200 species filled the curved rows of seats, their voices creating a storm of sound. At the center of the chamber stood a small delegation of humans led by Captain Me and Admiral Han, facing the 7 High Counselors who governed galactic affairs. High Counselor Gil, an ancient being with pale blue skin and 6 eyes, raised his hands for silence. The room gradually quieted. "We have called this emergency session," Gil announced, "to address the return of humanity and the threat they claim approaches our galaxy." Administrator Tay stood beside the human delegation, having vouched for their sincerity. He had spent the last 3 days reviewing their evidence and was now convinced of the danger. "The humans have shared data concerning an entity they call the Convergence," Gil continued. "Captain Me will present this information." Me stepped forward, her face calm despite the thousands of eyes watching her. A holographic display activated above the chamber floor, showing images similar to what they had seen on the human ship. 300 years ago, Me began, our deep space telescopes detected unusual patterns at the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy. Stars were disappearing, not as they naturally would, but as if something was consuming them. The hologram showed a time-lapse of stars, blinking out in an unnatural pattern. Our scientists determined that a previously unknown entity was moving through space, absorbing matter and energy. We called it the Convergence because it seemed to pull everything toward itself, like a living black hole. Admiral Han stepped forward. "We sent probes to investigate. None returned, but their final transmissions showed something disturbing." The hologram changed to show footage from one of these probes. As it approached a dark region of space, its sensors began to fail. Then the image showed something impossible. The metal of the probe itself seemed to flow like water, being pulled apart and absorbed into the darkness. Gasps echoed through the chamber. "The Convergence doesn't just destroy," Han explained. "It absorbs and adapts. It learns from the technology it consumes, and it's growing." "If this entity is so dangerous," asked a counselor named Bayek, "why did humanity choose to face it alone? Why not warn the council immediately?" Me looked down for a moment before answering. "We had only theories and limited evidence. The council was already suspicious of humanity's rapid technological advancement. Would you have believed us?" Murmurs spread through the chamber, as many representatives reluctantly acknowledged the truth of her words. "More importantly," Me continued, "we knew that existing technology couldn't stop the Convergence. We needed to develop new approaches, and we needed time. So we made the difficult decision to withdraw." Tay stepped forward. "I have reviewed the humans' records. They relocated their entire civilization to a star system hidden behind a dust cloud beyond the galactic rim. There, they focused all their efforts on understanding and countering this threat. And now it's approaching our galaxy," Admiral Han said gravely. "Our projections indicate it will reach the outer systems within 6 months." Director Q joined them, activating a small device that projected detailed schematics into the air. During our isolation, we developed technology specifically designed to resist the convergence. These schematics show how your existing systems can be modified. Council scientists approached, studying the designs with obvious awe. The principles behind these modifications are unlike anything we've theorized, one scientist admitted, because they're based on a fundamental understanding of reality that we discovered during our isolation, Q explained. What you call physics is just the surface of how the universe truly works. High Counselor Gill's expression remained skeptical. Why should we trust that humanity returns only to help? Your species was always ambitious. Perhaps this is merely a pretext for conquest. A murmur of agreement rippled through some sections of the chamber. Captain Mi's face showed no offense at the accusation. Instead, she gestured to Admiral Han, who removed a small device from his pocket. This contains the complete technological history of humanity for the past 300 years, Han said, including the knowledge that allowed us to extend our lifespans, generate limitless energy, and travel faster than was previously thought possible. We offer it freely to the Council. The chamber erupted in shocked conversation. You would share such advances? Gill asked, clearly surprised. We will need every advantage to survive what's coming, Mi said simply. This isn't about power or politics anymore. It's about survival. Tay watched as the council members began to understand the gravity of the situation. The humans weren't returning as conquerors, but as allies offering salvation. There's one more thing you should know, Mi said, her voice cutting through the noise. The convergence isn't just a natural phenomenon. We believe it's conscious and hunting. The chamber fell silent. Our research suggests it specifically targets advanced civilizations, she continued. And it's growing more intelligent with each one it absorbs. If we don't stop it here at the edge of our galaxy, there may be nothing left to save. As her words sank in, Tay saw fear spread across the faces of the council members. But he also saw something else beginning to emerge, a resolute determination. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy faced a threat that made old rivalries and suspicions seem petty by comparison. We will need time to verify this information, High Counselor Gill finally said. But if what you say is true, humanity's return may be the greatest gift our galaxy has ever received. Mi bowed slightly. We hope to be worthy of your trust. The coming battle will require all of us, working together as we never have before. After centuries of silence, humanity returns. More powerful than ever, 2 weeks after the humans presented their evidence to the Galactic Council, tension filled the massive council station orbiting the neutral world of Nexa. Despite the clear danger of the approaching convergence, many species remained suspicious of humanity's sudden return and their advanced technology. Administrator Tay walked quickly through the crowded corridors toward the main conference room. Representatives from 30 key worlds had been meeting for days, arguing about how to respond to the human proposals. As he entered, he could hear the heated debate already in progress. We cannot simply hand control of our defense systems to the humans, shouted Representative Bion, his scaled skin flushing orange with emotion. Their technology may protect us from this convergence, but what protects us from them? Captain Mi stood calmly at the center of the room, her voice steady despite the hostility directed at her. We are not asking for control. We are offering knowledge. The modifications can be implemented by your own engineers. Under human supervision, Bion shot back. How convenient. Admiral Han stepped forward. The modifications are complex. Without proper guidance, they could cause system failures. We only wish to ensure they work correctly. High Counselor Gill raised his hands for silence. We have verified the existence of the convergence. Our own long-range sensors have now detected its approach. The threat is real, whether we trust the humans or not. I'll write a 900-word story for part 1. The vanishing in third-person style using simple language. After centuries of silence, humanity returns, more powerful than ever. The stars twinkled in the dark sky as Administrator Tay looked out from the massive window of the Galactic Council headquarters. It had been 300 years since humans had disappeared from the galaxy. 300 years of questions without answers. Tay ran his fingers through his gray hair. He was old now, even by the standards of his long-lived people. He had been just a young officer when the humans vanished. Now, as the head of the Council's history department, he still wondered what had happened to them. "Administrator Tay, may I come in?" A soft voice called from the doorway. "Yes, Day. Please enter." Tay replied, turning away from the window. Day was his newest assistant, young and eager to learn. She carried a stack of old paper files, a human invention that many species still used for important records. "I found these in the deep archives," she said, placing the files on Tay's desk. They contained the last known communications from Earth, before the silence. Tay nodded and sat down. He opened the first file and began to read. The documents told a familiar story. Earth had been a member of the Galactic Council for only 50 years. Humans were new to space travel compared to other species, but they learned quickly. They were creative, curious, and sometimes aggressive. They built colonies on 20 planets and traded with many alien races. Then, without warning, they stopped all communication. Their ships no longer visited alien worlds. Their colonies went dark, one by one. Search teams found empty cities on their planets. All the humans had simply gone. "It makes no sense," Tay muttered. "A whole species doesn't just disappear." "Some say they destroyed themselves," Day suggested. "They were known for fighting wars among their own kind." Tay shook his head. "No, there were no signs of war or disaster. They just left." A sharp beep from his computer interrupted their conversation. Tay pressed a button and the face of Council Security Chief Mun appeared on the screen. "Administrator Tay, we have detected unusual energy readings at the edge of Council space," Mun reported, his face serious. "They match nothing in our database." "Send me the data," Tay requested. A moment later, his screen filled with charts and numbers. Tay studied them carefully, his eyes widening. "These patterns," he whispered. "They're similar to old Earth technology, but much more advanced." "Earth technology?" Mun looked surprised. "That's impossible. The humans have been gone for centuries." "Perhaps not gone," Tay said. "Perhaps just away." Just then, another alert sounded. This one was more urgent, a distress signal from an outpost near the edge of known space. "Patching it through now," Mun said. The screen changed to show the face of an alien station commander. His blue skin was pale with fear. "This is Commander Park of Outpost 47, he said, his voice shaking. "We have made contact with an unknown vessel. It's huge, bigger than anything I've ever seen. It bears markings similar to old Earth ships, but the design is completely different." The image shook as something exploded in the background. Park looked over his shoulder, then back at the camera. "They're not attacking," he continued. "But when we tried to scan their ship, our systems failed. Now our power is failing too. They're sending a message. It says..." He paused, reading something off screen. "It says, 'We have returned.'" The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving Tay and Mun staring at a blank screen. "Send a diplomatic team to Outpost 47 immediately," Tay ordered. "I want to know what's happening." "I'll go myself," Mun said. "This could be dangerous." "I'm coming too," Tay decided. "If the humans have truly returned, I want to be there." 3 days later, Tay, Mun, and a small team of diplomats and security officers arrived at Outpost 47. The station was dark, running on emergency power only. Commander Park met them at the docking bay. "They're still here," he said without greeting. "Waiting. They haven't moved or communicated since sending that first message." Tay looked through the viewport and saw the ship. It hung in space like a massive shadow, sleek and black, with faint blue lights running along its hull. It was at least 10 times the size of the largest Council battleship. "Have you tried hailing them again?" Tay asked. "Yes." No response, Park replied. "It's like they're waiting for something, or someone." Tay thought for a moment, then made a decision. Prepare a shuttle. I will go to them. That's too dangerous, Mun protested. We don't know their intentions. If they wanted to harm us, they could have destroyed this station easily, Tay pointed out. No, they came to communicate, and I believe they're waiting for someone with authority. Despite Mun's objections, Tay boarded a small shuttle with 2 security officers. As they approached the massive ship, a section of its hull slid open, revealing a docking bay. They're inviting us in, Tay said. Take us in, pilot. The shuttle landed in the bay, which closed behind them. The air was breathable when they stepped out. The inside of the ship was lit with the same soft blue light as the exterior. A door opened at the far end of the bay, and a figure stepped through, clearly human, wearing a simple gray uniform. It was a woman with short black hair and calm eyes. Welcome, Administrator Tay, she said. My name is Captain Mai. We've been watching you for a long time, now we need to talk. After centuries of silence, humanity returns more powerful than ever. Tay felt his heart race as he stood before Captain Mai on the massive human vessel. Despite being over 300 years old, she appeared no older than 30. The 2 security officers behind him shifted nervously, hands near their weapons. How do you know my name? Tay asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Captain Mai smiled slightly. We've been monitoring the council for decades. Please follow me. There's much to discuss. She turned and walked through the doorway. After exchanging glances with his officers, Tay followed. The corridor they entered was simple yet elegant, with smooth walls that seemed to glow from within. There were no visible lights, yet everything was perfectly illuminated. This ship is unlike anything in our records, Tay observed. Your technology has advanced significantly. 300 years is a long time, Mai replied, especially when an entire species dedicates itself to progress. They entered a large room with a circular table in the center. The walls displayed moving images of stars and planets. Some Tay recognized, others he did not. 5 more humans waited at the table, 3 men and 2 women, all wearing the same gray uniforms. This is Ambassador Jun and his team, Mai introduced, gesturing to the door where another group of aliens had just entered. Tay turned, surprised to see Mun leading a small delegation. The security chief looked both angry and amazed. You said, you'd wait for my approval before making contact, Mun said to Tay. Time is short, Captain Mai interrupted. Please, everyone sit. Once they were seated, a holographic display appeared above the table, showing a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. 3 centuries ago, humanity made a difficult decision, Mia began. Our scientists detected something approaching our galaxy, something dangerous. We had 2 choices: warn the Council with little evidence and risk causing panic, or withdraw to prepare. So you just disappeared? Mun asked incredulously. Billions of people across 20 planets? One of the other humans, an older man with gray hair, nodded. I am Admiral Han. It was not an easy choice, but it was necessary. We relocated to a star system beyond the galactic rim, hidden by a dust cloud. Impossible, said one of the alien delegates, a scientist named Jin. The energy required to move an entire civilization was beyond our capabilities then, Han acknowledged. But not for long. Necessity drove innovation. Captain Mai touched the table, and the hologram changed to show a sleek spacecraft unlike their current vessel. This was one of our first breakthrough designs. It could bend space in ways we hadn't thought possible before. Tay leaned forward, fascinated. And your people? How have they changed? In many ways, Mai answered. Our lifespans have extended dramatically. I am over 200 years old, though I was born after the relocation. A murmur ran through the alien delegation. 200 years was young for some species, but extraordinary for humans. But why return now? Mun asked, still suspicious. After centuries of silence? Mai's expression grew serious. Because what we feared is now approaching, and neither humanity nor the Council can face it alone. She touched the table again, and the hologram shifted to show something strange, a dark mass moving between stars, seemingly absorbing light. We call it the convergence, Admiral Han explained. A collective entity that consumes technology, resources, and life itself. It has already destroyed 2 dwarf galaxies beyond our rim.